Alright, so I'm back again. Living the dream here. We're going to lose all the left lanes. This one poor four-wheeler is just fucking burning away. He wants around. I was talking about owner-operators, the end of them and all that stuff. Another issue that contributes, though, some people cry foul on this. I think this is just kind of a sign of North American industry in general. You know, we also run the problem that trucks are nowhere near as reliable as they were 10, 15 years ago, right? This truck, I've already had issues with it. Nothing engine related, thank God. But parts have vibrated loose, right? Fitment is weird on things. You know, my stainless for my DEF tank, the screw just fucking snapped in half, so my DEF tank has got one screw holding it in, so it's dangling around. I had a bracket for my side skirts, like my chrome side skirts on my truck, bracket fucking snapped, and it's like, none of this shit should be broken. The bracket snapped 3 months into owning this truck. Like, how are these components that fragile, right? You know, he said, again, knock on my fake wood, nothing engine related or transmission related has happened yet. You know, when I flick switches, everything still does what they're supposed to do, all that stuff. It's just some of the stuff. Just, you know, again, I've had the truck's not well. The truck is 8 year old, and I've had a couple of issues. Oh yeah, like right now, my tilt telescope on my steering wheel, there's a pedal, like to the left of my clutch that you press in to adjust the steering wheel. It broke. So the pedal dangles loosely. Fuck, I'm glad I'm not going the other way. It's just before midnight. It's 11:53 and there's a fucking traffic jam. Fucking, oh, this whole area sucks. So the pedals, like the spring snapped, so I can't adjust my wheel anymore. Thankfully it was in the position I normally use it in, so I got to take it in to get it fixed. There was one other thing I wanted to look at, I can't remember. But it's you paid a shitload of money for a vehicle. You'd expect like things to last longer, but they don't, and that hinders owner operators because again, as soon as warranty wears out, you're on the hook to pay for things. Like my warranty is expired. If I want to get the steering wheel fixed, I have to pay for it, right? If I want to get whatever the fuck else I needed done and fixed, I have to. No, my DEF tank, I have to pay for it, right? So, again, when owner-operators are, especially, again, there was that huge stretch from 2013 to, like, 2015 or 2016, where guys bought trucks, and the trucks, within a year, the motors blew up. And they get the motor replaced on Peterbilt or Kenworth or any company's dime, and then 6 months later, the motor will blow again. Well, the company's, fuck this, you're on your own. Like, we can't keep paying for this shit. It's not our problem. You know, wash our hands of it. Sorry we gave you a bad truck, but we're not going to do anything about it. You know, International, whatever the fuck it is, the government dictated that they had to pay anybody that bought a truck with a Max Force. They had to be paid out. It was a stupid amount of money. It was like $5,000 or something like that. It was the most you could get. But they were ordered by law to pay everybody. Everybody that bought an International with a Max Force, they were required to pay them all a certain amount of money because everybody that bought one of those trucks lost money on them because they were massive piles of junk. I've driven 2 Max Force equipped Internationals and they were the worst trucks I've ever driven. Like, by leaps and bounds. And I've driven I shouldn't say almost every kind of truck on the road, but I've driven a Cascadia, I've driven a 579, I've driven a T680, I've driven 2 380, well, multiple 389s at this point. You know, I've driven 2 different W9s. You know, I've driven a Cascadia for a couple of months. I drove an automatic Volvo. I said, by and large, the worst truck I drove, or trucks, were the 2 Max Force equipped Internationals. I drove one with a Cummins, and it was a little better, but the International part, like, most of the International components were junk. So, yeah, again, anybody that bought International got fucked. So, and that's again part of the problem is that you're banking for some of these guys, like you go through cycles of losing everything, right, and becoming a company guy again and again. Like if I look at even like my current lifestyle right now, right, I have a $6 figure lifestyle to an extent. I'm not particularly whatever the word is. I don't go fucking overboard here, but I own a Mustang, I own a Harley. I have I have several guitars that are on the higher end of the cost spectrum, right? I play airsoft. Airsoft guns are not cheap. I own this truck and pay for this truck. What the fuck else do I do here? I'm missing a fucking hobby here. I've got like high-end computers and stuff like that. Like my lifestyle now kind of requires that I make kind of at least $1,000 a week, if not $1,000 plus. If I were to go back to being a company guy making about $500-600 a week, I wouldn't be able to afford any of the stuff I have. So I would end up having to let a lot of it be repossessed or shit all over my credit and go with nothing. And that's, I've seen guys do it. My dad's been through it, right? He went through a trucking boom and then it went to shit. And he was a company guy for a long time until he bought his 13 W9 that he had before the truck he has now. Right? Before that, like for 10, 15 years, he was a company guy. And he could, same thing, right? Like you get the same kind of bullshit. He never had any money, right? He could barely make ends meet. It was just him. He had, when we were kids, he had us every other weekend, right? And then when we moved in with him, that really fucked things over for him because then he had to support us full time because my mom was useless, right? So it's like a company driver income isn't enough to support a family anymore, and it absolutely is not, right? An owner-operator income, you can still like fairly comfortably support a family, or again, if you're like me and you're just single, you're making like a lot of money to do whatever you want with, right? Like, so my dad's all worried for me. He keeps getting paranoid. Oh man, be careful, like, because I got next weekend booked off. He's like, you need to make sure you're running miles. I said, Dad, as long as I gross like $7,000 a month, or net, sorry, as long as I net about $7,000 a month, and I'm guaranteed $5,000 at the start of the month, right? As long as my net is around $7,000 a month, I can pay all my bills and still have money to feed myself. I'm not buying all kinds of cool shit, but I can feed myself, right? My net for this month was just a hair under 10 grand, right? Take home. So that, that's more than enough money, right? My car is paid 3 months ahead. My motorcycle is paid, well, a month and a half ahead, or a month ahead. Almost all of my bills are ahead, or just they're on time, right? I'm not in a financial stress situation. My dad, again, my dad has a lot more bills than I do, so he's getting paranoid. But my income requirements are a lot lower. But I still could not survive going back to a company driver's wage. Right? I don't make enough money, or I wouldn't make enough money. The things that I own and make payments on cost too much to live off of, like, as a company driver. So I'm somewhat heavily dependent on being successful, or again, at least moderately successful. I don't need to make billions of dollars, but I need to make sure that I'm still making a decent amount of money. Again, I said, guys that end up having to restart back at nothing, like, you go for 5 to 10 to 15 years before you finally get some sort of money and credit to be able to buy your own truck and try to start that high income cycle again. And for a lot of guys, it doesn't happen. Like, there are countless, and most of them will tell you stories, and a lot of them are bitter about it, so they try to talk about it like they know it all. There are countless drivers out there that they bought a truck or multiple trucks, they've had trucks, they lost everything, and they retire as a company guy making very little money because they never make enough money to get back into owning a truck, right? Because the down payment on a truck is anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. And that's in a good credit scenario. That's not even counting, like, if your credit's rough and they want 20 to 30% down. Well, then you're looking at, fucking down payment on a home, right? And you just flat out do not have, as a company driver, you will not come up with that amount of cash, right? If you've been an owner-operator and you've lost everything, you likely don't have the credit to get anything. So now where are you at? You at that point you more or less have to basically accept that you're going to live a life that's far less extravagant than what you had, and you're not going to be able to aspire to things, and you're going to die driving someone else's truck that probably isn't a truck you want to drive, and that's it. And that's very morbid, and it is really tragic. Again, some people get lucky. My dad got very lucky to be able to get back into it and start making good money. But if he were to lose his truck tomorrow, he'd probably fucking shoot himself for one thing, but also he would never be able to get back into his own truck. It would never happen, right? It's far too late in his life for starters, and it's just, where do you go from there? It'd be so disheartening. Like for me, I don't want to, like, if I were to lose this truck, same thing, it'd be really disheartening, but I'm still young enough that, again, I would be at the point where my dad was before he bought his 2013. I'd be going for 10 to 15 years as a company guy, and around my late 40s, early 50s is when I'd maybe be able to buy my own truck if I worked my ass off towards it again. So that's kind of a scary kind of aspect of this job, and that's what companies are playing with when they're attempting to implement the speed limiters and stuff like that. It's kind of become I'm okay, like, I don't care if you fucking lose everything and your kids starve to death. Like, that's not my fucking problem. I want your money. Give me your fucking money. Like, it's capitalism. So again, the vast majority of Americans or people even in the free world will support it, but it's despicable. Like, again, most of the mega carriers have their profits. They have their money-making formula worked out. None of them are hurting for cash, right? There's been fleets closing like every other week now or every other day. But the big guys, they're not fucking going anywhere. They're not hurting for cash. So it's like, but it's that mentality, well, I don't want to leave some for the rest of us or for everyone else. No, I want their cash too. If those guys want to make any money at all, they can come work for me at whatever I delegate to them. And again, it used to be the government prevented that from happening, and now it's actively encouraged. So that's where we're at right now, is it's an attempt to just destabilize the owner-operator, and hopefully eventually bankrupt every owner-operator to the point where they have to go and work for the companies, right? And again, I think a lot of people come to that default response, like, well, fuck, if they implement mandatory speed limiters, I'm fucking hanging up my keys. See if everybody likes fucking not getting anything, but there's still so many people that will do the job. It doesn't matter if, 100 to 200,000 truck drivers hang up their keys for a week. There are still hundreds of thousands of companies and drivers that will, again, we see it in the Facebook groups all the time. Like, when it's, when people start talking about doing a protest, there's always guys, you guys fucking losers, go and do whatever you want. I'm gonna go fucking take your jobs. Fuck you. There's money to be made when you're not fucking running. And that's capitalism, right? That kind of cutthroat mentality that, well, if you're not gonna fucking do the work, I'm not gonna not do it in solidarity with you. I'm gonna fucking take your work. Like, I'll fucking steal the job away from you. They'll never fucking come back to you. Like, again, it's bullshit, but it's capitalism. So again, it's very difficult for the overwhelming majority of North American truck drivers to stand together, because the overwhelming majority would rather, again, we all need money. Everybody's still like, none of these truck drivers are so fucking filthy rich that they could actually afford to take a week off, just straight a week, like all at the same time, to take a week off work, right? Most of them couldn't actually afford that. So again, most of them are, maybe they'll on the surface support it, but inwardly they're like, yeah, fuck, I'm gonna fucking run my ass off for the week they're all off because I need to fucking make some money, right? And again, part of that is the government has kind of established that level of competition with each other. I see it again. It's North America in general, though you see it far more in the U.S. It's more prevalent. Like the biggest one I looked at was like the idea of government-funded post-secondary education. Right? So many people have this mindset. Well, I had to pay for school, so you should have to pay for school. And it's like, but you don't even realize that you shouldn't have had to pay for school, like for college. Because most of Europe, it's paid for by the government. It's paid for out of your taxes or whatever, right? And so everybody's, well, we need change to come, all this shit. And then it's like, but I don't want to see anyone else have it easier than me. So now just the general population keeps perpetuating what the government has set in place, right? Like, oh yeah, don't cry to me with your fucking student debt. Shouldn't have paid for it, you shouldn't have went to school then. And it's like, so again, now all of like the regular population is actively discouraging people from furthering their education by nature of discouraging the government from providing compensated education or free education, right? I mean, well, again, a lot of Western European countries offer free college, but they have mandatory military service. So you serve for whatever the terms, usually like 2 to 3 years, and you get paid college or university or whatever. But again, North Americans Americans themselves as individuals are exactly like the country as a whole. They're exceptionally capitalist, and again, nobody wants to see somebody else have it easier than them. Again, that's why most people are so adamantly against freeloaders or any of that stuff, and it's also why the United States healthcare doesn't change, because while so many people wish that they didn't have to pay exorbitant amounts of money for healthcare, they absolutely expect everybody else to the point where I have seen people say, like, I don't care who you are. If you can't afford to pay for your kid's healthcare, he fucking dies. I don't care. I don't give a shit if your kid dies. It's not my fucking kid. I don't want a healthcare system where if my kid comes in with a broken ankle and your kid comes in with a heart attack, that my kid has to wait. If I showed up and I paid money, your kid dies, my kid gets fixed. Right? And that's despicable, but it's encouraged. It's actively encouraged by both our countries. Again, it's not just the U.S. Canada's, again, we're a little bit different because we do have institutionalized healthcare. But that for almost everything else, like our that level of competitiveness is still there. So again, truckers undercut each other, just owner-operators undercut each other, companies undercut each other, and therefore nobody will stand together, right? Not in the amount of, not in the numbers required to actually physically affect the North American economy, right? Again, like the truckers' protests like done in Washington and stuff, like that's a day where, I mean, that's really at the end of the day, it has no more impact than a truck show. Right, and I'm not saying that to demean or belittle any of the guys that attended those rallies, because those are the few. Few compared to the rest of North America. Those are the few that were able to see past everything else and see past capitalism and work together. Like if the rest of the North American truck drivers were to be like those guys, we would enact change, right? But as it stands, on a realistic level, they didn't accomplish anything. And again, it's evident because everything that they've stood and protested against has been slowly brought in. E-logs, right? E-logs was the big one. E-logs are now mandatory. They're going to be mandatory in Canada, I think, by the end of this year. So, there wasn't enough to do anything. And again, I get leery anyways, because if every truck driver were to stop driving truck for a week, I don't think you'd see an apology out of the government. I don't think you'd see a level of understanding from the population. I think you'd see truck drivers getting lynched. I think you'd see initially truckers and their trucks would get vandalized, and then once things became more desperate, people would attempt to force truck drivers to go to work, and then people would start killing. Like we'd all like if we all decided no, for a week we're not driving, we'd all be the first to die because we'd be dragged out of our homes and killed. Or people would take our families and threaten to kill our families if we didn't go back to work. Like that's, again, I think a lot of people haven't thought that part through. That, you know, a week of no trucks running effectively is the apocalypse, right? And so people will immediately behave as though it's an apocalypse. And again, especially when there is an obvious person to blame, the people that the general population blames are going to get a massive brunt of the outcry or the backlash for that issue. So again, I mean, I think the trick is a fine line between you want everybody to see the effects of truckers not running, but you don't want to completely destroy the economy. Like a week is almost too long, right? If every trucker in North America were to stop driving a truck for 3 days, I think that'd be enough to get the point across. If you go for a week or more, you end North America, right? And obviously, you know, on one hand, you almost want to demonstrate how important we are, but on that other hand, like once you cross that threshold, it's almost impossible to come back, and we will likely not be alive to see it, because again, at that point, that is when people will take matters into their own hands, and they will go after the people that they deem at fault for the way their world is now, which will be the truck drivers. It won't be the government. They won't turn to look at the government and say, those fucking guys wouldn't pay those truck drivers, so it's their fault. No, they will look at the truck drivers. The government will encourage them to look at the truck drivers, right? We will be at fault, so, or, well, at least in the eyes of everyone, right? So, again, the trick is to balance it out. Though, again, I don't think you'll see a reaction. The government will wait it out, and then when we go back to work, just, okay, well, guess what? Now we're going to do it. What are you going to do? Like, it's all calling our bluff, right? Because the government knows that really the only thing the only option we have after that is to literally take it to the extreme and devastate the North American economy irreparably and deal with the consequences, or accept what the government's forcing on us. Like it's I know there's an analogy with like a bully or a schoolyard bully or something where it's like, I don't know, like he's going to do something whether you like it or not, like whether you do anything about it or not, he's still going to punch you in the head. So you can either choose to punch him back, in which case he's going to just beat the fuck out of you, or you can stand there and let him punch you, you know, once in the face, and that's all he's going to do. Like, it's kind of your options, right? But either way, he's going to punch you in the face. So, you know, figure out what you prefer, I guess. I think that view is very pessimistic, and I would like to think that that's not what would happen, but you know, my 30 years on this earth has kind of led me to believe that most people are shit, and they will treat everyone else like shit, right? So, you know, it's likely that is kind of the reaction they'll have. Okay, what fucking lane is this guy in? I think he's in the right lane. Definitely is in the right lane. I think, again, really our only hope is that those types of legislation don't pass. Again, it becomes a problem because every couple of years, a group of people get together and attempt to pass those types of legislation. Again, it's difficult to say how governments will react. Well, most truck drivers, again, like it's the reason why a lot of truck drivers voted for Trump, is the liberal government has always typically been fairly outspoken against truck drivers having their own autonomy. Like they've been really, you know, a lot of the Republican or Democrats, I guess, have typically pushed for stricter rules and controls on trucks. But then Trump came into power, and he hangs up the ATA, and that's it. And e-logs became mandatory. Speed limiters have gone farther in the Supreme Courts than they've ever gone, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, again, most of American truck drivers voted Republican because they wanted somebody that it seemed like was putting American business first, especially small business owners, entrepreneurs, which, I mean, entrepreneur is kind of an exotic word for an owner-operator truck driver, but, you know, self-employed Americans. And then it's kind of like, no, actually, I'm going to go for the big businesses and give them what they want. Fuck you guys. So now who do you turn to? Because somebody sent me a link, and I'm sincerely hoping that it's just somebody wrote something shitty and then, like, put a picture of that, whatever the fuck her name is, Osceola Cortez, next to it. But it was all like American truck drivers are dirty and disgusting. They piss bottle or pee bottles everywhere. And absolutely, they should be regulated. They shouldn't be working anymore. We should be replacing them with automation and like evicting them from their jobs. And it's like, again, the way, like, it was not strong, like it wasn't like harshly worded, or it wasn't vulgar, but it was strongly worded to the point where, like, I don't think that this I realize that this particular politician has just kind of gotten a little bit famous for being outspoken on, especially about particularly liberal views. But I don't think she would have actually said that. I think somebody saying that just kind of smear against her. But if she were to actually say that, like, them's fighting words, right? Those are, if you know, if she were to go onto the news and I were to actually see her physically confirm that that's what she said and she meant it, okay, I don't care. And again, at that point, I mean, I'm not American, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But at that point, if I was an American, I wouldn't care if I was absolutely against Trump and everything he stood for. Somebody who's not her is getting into office, right? Like, you know, again, if somebody were to dismiss the American truck driver as that and just cast them to the side after how much of a sacrifice truck drivers make for this country. And again, it's an unacknowledged sacrifice, and it's not on the level of the military as an example, right? I mean, the military has sacrificed, well, typically a lot more than truck drivers have, but drivers sacrifice a typical home life, a typical family life, you know, in some cases a family at all, to do the job that they do, right? Which, again, yes, we get paid for it, and so does the military. The military should probably, like, I think the government should spend less money on, like, all kinds of fucking stupid technology to fucking kill people, and just put more money into their actual men and women in the military. But, you know, we all get compensated for what we do, but we also, again, do quite a bit of unusual work or extraordinary work, right? We, again, truck drivers stay away from their families for weeks to months on end. And if truck drivers were to just suddenly decide they weren't going to do it anymore, much like if the U.S. military were to suddenly decide to say, we're not going to defend the country borders anymore. Like, if the U.S. military were to announce tomorrow, none of us, we're stepping down, none of us are going to defend the country. It wouldn't take that long before a country like Russia or somebody decides, okay, we're going to fucking go in there then. The U.S. is going to be Russia. Now's our chance, right? And yeah, there'll be plenty of civilians that attempt to push back. That's, you know, without the military, you're kind of fucked, right? What was I going to say? And it's, you know, it's the same thing with truckers. If trucking or truckers stop driving truck, the country would be in serious jeopardy, right? So, you know, that kind of idea is the same as when, I mean, Trump actually did, where decreed that, you know, transgendered people shouldn't be in the military, and then went so far as to start attempting to even transgender people who were already in the military to get them out of the military. It's like, well, I mean, either way, that's a terrible idea, right? Because again, what your sexual orientation or gender is really has no bearing on your ability to defend your country or your level of pride in your country. right? I guarantee you, any one of those fucking transgendered military can kick the shit out of Donald Trump. Like, again, it's a very snooty, privileged position to look at those fighting men and women and say, you're not good enough, right? Because, well, Trump dodged the draft. Trump, he's whatever. I think somebody's using a 4-time draft dodger or some shit. Like, Trump's never fucking fought in the military. He's never had to again, to use that popular quote, he's never had to sign a check to the U.S. government payable to the U.S. government of up to and including their life, right? And again, thankfully, most of the United States Armed Forces doesn't have to make that sacrifice, but they put that on the table, right? So, see, I got told by my buddy Ryan that on Sunday nights this truck stop is empty and you're guaranteed to find a spot. And I was like, how do you know? He's like, well, I'm there at 5 in the morning on Monday and it's fucking empty. Well, that's 5 in the morning after people have left. Driving by, it looks like it's full as fuck. I should say I'm very tired. I had a second wind. I mean, I've been up all day. I played airsoft today, so I'm gonna run around like a fucking asshole. There's an end spot right here. I guess I could fucking wheel it in there. Should I just drive in? I should just drive in. I'm gonna just fucking drive in. Fuck it. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna just. Oh fuck, that's a curve. Whatever. I'm gonna be that fucking guy and just wing her into the spot and call her a night because I'm sleepy. Okay, what the fuck? I know the curve is low enough and I'll clear it, but I don't want to fucking, I'd rather not bump it. I think it's basically right there, so that should be good. We'll call her a night right here. I don't think I'm sticking out too hard. I'm not into the laneway or anything like that. Of course, the truck is doing it. It was in the middle of a regen, so it's fucking running like shit. I'm going right to sleep, Roberta, because I'm going right to bed. Yeah, alright. So that's it. That's the end of my video. I'm going to go to bed. Call her a night. Yeehaw. Alright, cowpokes. You all have yourselves a good night.